If you love the idea of freshly milled flour, but you're wondering how this actually fits into real, everyday life, busy days, full schedules, normal routines, today I want to show you what this looks like in our home, because this doesn't have to be complicated to be sustainable. Hi friends, welcome back to For Your Heart and Home. We've talked about what freshly milled flour is, how to get started, and some simple recipes to begin with. And today we're talking about how to make this a lifestyle in a way that feels peaceful and doable. Before we get into the practical side, I want to start with this. This is not about doing everything perfectly. It's not about milling all your flour all the time. It's about creating a rhythm that works for your home. Some weeks you might do more, some weeks less, and that's okay. Let me show you what that looks like for me in our home. My number one go-to option for using freshly milled flour is to mill as you go. On slower days or when I'm already in the kitchen, I'll mill flour right before I use it. This works well for pancakes in the morning, muffins in the afternoon, quick breads, anything else that you might need. It only takes a few minutes and it becomes part of the flow of the day. I have the Nutrimil Harvest, and one thing I like about it is that I can weigh my ingredients, put it in the mill to mill, and I can move around the kitchen and do other things while my flour is being made. So milling my flour really doesn't add too much time to something that I'm already doing. If milling as you go doesn't work for you, maybe you rise early and you try to prepare food while the rest of your family is resting and you don't want to wake them up because, let's be honest, these meals are loud, you can try batch milling. So you might mill a large amount once or twice a week if that works for you. Important thing to note is that flour that is milled at home usually have a shorter shelf life. So you'll have to plan ahead. Maybe you want to have a big baking day, or you want to save some for the rest of the week because you have a recipe coming up that calls for flour. You can store this flour short term and still get many of the benefits. You can mill the flour and then put it in your freezer. That will give you the best outcome, but you can also mill it and keep it on your counter for a short period of time. Say you want to mill it the night before and in the morning you want to wake up and make pancakes. That is totally fine. Put it in a clean glass jar and store it on your counter. If it's going to be longer than that, I would put it in a freezer safe container and put it in my freezer until I'm ready to use it. However, if you're going to freeze your flour, you need to take it from the freezer and have it come to room temperature before you start baking. Another option is to create a bread routine. Bread is often the anchor habit in many homes, and so it looks like this: making bread once or twice a week, using your bread machine to simplify the process, or hand kneading if you so choose. I use the Cuisinart convection bread machine, and I have raved about this bread machine on and on so many times because I absolutely love how hands-on it makes bread making. But whatever machine you have, whatever method you use, you can create a routine that works for your home. There is no one or right way to approach using freshly milled flour. Again, my go-to option is to mill as I go. I will measure out the ingredients that I need, pop it in a bowl, and then go about my day to make whatever it is that I was already going to make in the kitchen. If that doesn't work for you, go ahead and batch mill. I started with an entry-level mill, and I would batch mill my flour because my machine was much smaller and could only mill in smaller capacities. And so I would mill on a Sunday. I would decide what we were going to eat for the week, and so I would measure out all my ingredients. I would mill all the flour I needed for all of those ingredients, and then I would just have everything portioned out and ready to go throughout the week. That for me is what worked when we first started. And again, you have another option. Maybe you have a huge baking day once or twice a week where you make several loaves of bread, you make your dinner rolls, you make your pizza dough, and then you have those already made up and ready to go in your freezer. Whatever works for you, I encourage you to do what feels best and feels peaceful. Sometimes in the fresh milk community, people will demonize milling your flour ahead of time. I say the flour that you're milling in your home is still going to be fresher than the flour you find on any store shelf. So if it's been a few days since it's been milled, I wouldn't lose sleep over it. Again, if you're going to mill ahead, I would just keep it in the freezer to maintain the freshness as best as possible. But this is not about feeling guilty. This is not about a perfect routine. This is about providing for our family the best way we know how and with the most nutrient-dense foods we can find. So for me, the way that fresh milled flour became an easier habit is by doing a few things. I keep grains accessible. So I buy the grains that we used most often in larger quantities. So I will buy a 25-pound to 50-pound bag of hard white wheat because that is the base of all of my yeast recipes. I will also buy a large quantity, about a 25-pound bag of soft white wheat, because that is the base of all of my recipes that will call for baking powder or baking soda. I keep some other grains on hand as well, like durum, because that is what I use to make all of our pastas. So I will buy a large quantity of durum. So in my storage area, I have 3 wheat berries that I store primarily, and I store those in larger quantities. That way, I'm never saying, I can't make this recipe because I don't have the proper wheat. So that is something that I keep stocked in large amounts at all times. Other wheat berries like spelt, kamut, or Courgeon wheat, I also store, but in smaller quantities because I use those more for flavoring. And so if I run out of those, I'm never at a loss because I always have hard white wheat, soft white wheat, and durum on hand. So always keep grains accessible. If you're new to fresh milled flour, don't be intimidated or don't feel worried about pairing it with something you're already doing. So if you need to mill flour and you need to also make dinner, you can mill while you're making dinner. So that, again, with my Nutri-Mill Harvest, I like that I can put the ingredients in the wheat berries. The machine can do its thing while I'm somewhere else in the kitchen working on dinner, pulling together something else that my family needs. I can do multiple things at once. You're already in the kitchen anyway, so why not prep another recipe? Some people make using fresh milled flour easier by constantly having several types of doughs going at certain points in their kitchen. So that's something that you can incorporate into your daily routine. You're already in the kitchen, you're already making something, so why not make up some dough for bread tomorrow morning? It works completely fine if you take that approach. I like to use the tools in my kitchen to my advantage. If you're going through a busy season and you don't have time to hand knead your bread, use your bread machine. It's there to knead the dough, pull the dough together for you, and then all you have to do is pull it from the machine, shape it, let it rise, and put it in your oven. When you have more time and it's a slower season for you, then you can hand knead your dough if that's what you prefer to use. But let the tools that you already have serve you. My next tip, and this goes for using fresh and mulled flour and other things as well, is to keep recipes on repeat. I tell my kids all the time, this is not a restaurant. We're not trying all new recipes every day of the week. We're going to use what we have. We're going to rely on the recipes I know that everyone enjoys, and I'm going to make those on repeat. Okay? You don't need a huge variety either. If you are really good at making pancakes, really good at making muffins, and really good at making sandwich bread, that is a lot that you can rotate through there. You can change the flavors of your pancakes, you can change the flavors of your muffins, you can change the shape of your sandwich bread, and you can make it fun and interesting without pulling your hair out. So rotate through these recipes until you become comfortable, especially during busy seasons. And one thing I like to do is to batch cook and freeze. That way, if one person wants pancakes today, another person wants muffin, no problem. I can reheat it in the oven and everybody can get what they need and we can move on with the day. So don't overthink it. Again, that goes for bread products in my home, that goes for meal ideas. If there is something that everybody enjoys eating and it's something that I've made 3 or 4 times already that week, but that's what they want to eat, then that's what I'm going to make. I don't want to have mealtime be a source of anxiety for anyone. I want it to be a time where we can sit down and be comfortable and eat a peaceful meal together. And so if that means eating the same thing on rotation several times a week, that is exactly what I will do. Overall, think about grace over perfection. I think this is the most important part of all. Give yourself grace. There will be days when you don't mill anything. Weeks where you go back to store-bought flour. This is not all or nothing. It's simply a tool, a way to nourish your family when you can. And over time, it becomes second nature. This is a judgment-free zone, and if you have questions about anything, please feel encouraged to ask away so that we can learn and grow together. I think fresh flour is worth the time it takes to incorporate it into our diet, but when you step back, this is about more than just flour. It's about slowing down, being intentional, and nourishing your family well. It's about creating a home rhythm that feels meaningful. If you've been following along with the series, I hope you feel encouraged to start or to keep going. Start small, keep it simple, and let it grow over time. And if you've missed any of the earlier videos, I'll have them linked for you so you can go back and watch them from the beginning. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being you. Until next time.